What has Finance Isle of Man ever done for us? Well, it's supporting the banking sector, I suppose, and then there's insurance, pensions, financial services, and actually the industries it supports produce 42% of Manx economic activity. On Agenda tonight, Simon Pickering unlocks the mysteries of the largely overlooked but highly significant role his agency plays in supporting this hugely important realm of Manx business. But apart from banking, insurance, pensions, fiduciaries, and a massive economic output, what has Finance Isle of Man ever done for us? Simon Pickering is Head of Insurance and Pensions at Finance Isle of Man. A press release arrived in the Manx Radio newsroom inbox, and I looked at this and I thought, I don't really understand what this means, but it was from Finance Isle of Man, and I thought, well, Finance Isle of Man, it probably means it's something quite important. So I thought, let's have Finance Isle of Man along and have a bit of a chat. So first of all, Simon, I mean, what is Finance Isle of Man for the uninitiated?
Yes, thank you, Phil. I'm delighted to be here today. Finance Isle of Man was set up about 3.5 years ago now, following a review of what was the Department of Economic Development. That department morphed into the Department for Enterprise. And at that stage, it was decided we would set up 4 executive agencies. So finance, digital, business and visit. Each of those 4 agencies would have an executive chair from outside of government and would have a board of professional people from each of those individual sort of sectors. So the finance agency very much looks after financial services, banking, insurance, pension, funds and professional services. And it's worked very well. They concentrate on what we call the 3 Ps, which is promotion, product and policy. And as I said, it's made up of private sector individuals as well as government representatives. But it's really, the concept was for private sector to drive forward the work of the Department for Enterprise.
And this effectively, the whole idea of these boards was to try and deliver the elusive public-private partnership, which government has often talked about as being a good idea, and indeed the private sector often talks about as a good idea, but it's not always been easy to deliver. So how is this new structure within the department? How's it working?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We've always believed we've had a strong private sector partnership, and in the 8.5 years I've been with the department, I think we have, but this has sort of accelerated it, formalised it, and given some structure to the planning of how we promote ourselves to the world and any ideas that we come up with. And obviously we've got some exciting ideas at this very moment.
And effectively, trying to break this down into as simplistic terms as we can, and then hopefully we'll get into a bit more depth as the interview goes on. Effectively, then, Finance Isle of Man is there to sell the Isle of Man to prospective companies, organisations that may wish to come and do business on the island, but also presumably it has a role in supporting the business that's here already.
Absolutely, yes. It's predominantly to assist the incumbent businesses here to grow organically. What can we do to help? So, for instance, we've got a round table next week with some of our major employers to talk about vacancies and skills, because obviously one of the problems we've got at the moment is our very low unemployment rate. So companies are having issues in filling vacancies in some areas. So, yeah, absolutely, first and foremost, how can we support and assist those businesses that are already operating here? The second part of it, as you quite rightly said, is how can we grow the economically active working population, attract more businesses to the island, to ensure that we continue to be as diversified as we can be. So that's where the promotional aspect comes in, dealing with entities and associations outside of the island.
And what would you say are the biggest hurdles let's start with current business on the island. What are the biggest hurdles that they have? What are the oft stated concerns that they give to Finance Isle of Man?
Yes, well, we did get some market intelligence at an event we had at the Manx Museum about 5 months ago, where we used the Slido system to ask over 100 professional people in the room, where are the problems, and skills is certainly one of those. That sort of came out top. The increasing cost of compliance was another one. But they do realise that compliance is important. Compliance is what attracts business to the Isle of Man, and having a pragmatic regulator that's renowned throughout the world in the Financial Services Authority is key to that. So yeah, vacancies and skills is paramount.
And of course, anyone who knows anything about economics will know that if you can manage to increase the productive output of your workforce, you're generally going to do a lot better economically. So what are the solutions then to the perceived or the skills shortage? Are there on-island solutions? Because there must be lots of people working in relatively low-paid jobs who, with the right training, could potentially come into the higher-paid workforce.
Absolutely, and financial services and professional services is still around about 42% of our GDP. So that there's a workforce of around 10,000 people at the moment. But yeah, there's some initiatives we're looking at around upskilling and reskilling of people that perhaps may be in lower paid jobs at the moment, to bring them into not just financial services but digital services as well. One initiative we're working on is with a company called Code Clan. They're based in Edinburgh. They do a fast boot camp over a period of sort of 12 weeks, where they will reskill individuals into becoming data analysts, programmers, coders. 86% of the people that go through their courses then walk into jobs with their sort of partner companies, which might be Scottish Widows in Scotland or Lloyds Bank. So we're looking to replicate that course in the Isle of Man early 2023. There are one or two other initiatives at the moment which are not quite ready to announce, but are quite exciting. But this roundtable next week is quite important, because we will get to hear firsthand from the companies themselves where their problems sit at this time.
You're listening to Simon Pickering, Head of Insurance and Pensions at Finance Isle of Man. We'll carry on this bit of the conversation, but I don't want to miss out on the press release that prompted this discussion. And as I say, I mean, I wouldn't class myself as a particularly stupid person. Maybe listeners may have a different view. I'm also not an expert on how the whole financial system or the finance sector works on the Isle of Man. So there was some exciting news in the press release. But is it possible that you could maybe translate some of the language, because there were all sorts of fancy terminology, bits of jargon in there. So what exactly was being announced?
We actually had two exciting press releases within a period of about 10 days. The first one was around the signing of a memorandum of understanding with FinTech Scotland. We were introduced to FinTech Scotland last October. We held a joint event with them as part of the FinTech Scotland Festival, which is a month-long festival every sort of September through to October. And we got on well. I mean, there's a lot of synergies between Scotland and the Isle of Man. So we kept the relationship and the dialogue open, and that led to the signing of a memorandum of understanding a few weeks ago. The idea of which is that we sort of share ideas and good practice. We continue dialogue. So FinTech Scotland itself is a non-governmental, not-for-profit association. They have about 160 FinTech companies that are members, but they're actually quite light on InsurTech companies within their association. So, and that's where we thought we could collaborate.
So let's have a bit of a definition break here. FinTech. What in essence is a FinTech company?
Yeah, FinTech is quite broad. So it stands for financial technology. It's not new. It's been around for many, many years. But I suppose the use of it has been accelerated in recent times. I'm no way at the cutting edge of technology, Phil, but I now have a banking app on my mobile here that opens up when I look at it. So facial ID recognition. So it's quite wide ranging, disruptive at times, with the digital banks, etc. But it's the way forward.
So disruptive. Tell us a bit more about what you mean by that.
Well, if you look at companies like Revolut, that millions of people are now using instead of going to their high street bank to make payments, that's why unfortunately a lot of branches are closing throughout the UK and here on the island. So it's just faster ways of moving money around. That's how it started. But FinTech has developed into lots of subsectors. So you've got RegTech, you've got Health Tech, you've got InsurTech, which was the other announcement I think you're referring to.
InsurTech, obviously. It doesn't take a rocket science to work this one out. Insurance technology. So that's obviously an area that the Isle of Man has some level of expertise on, and that's why presumably FinTech Scotland were so keen to enter into the partnership.
Absolutely, yes. So insurance is still our biggest single sector on the island. It's about 19% of our GDP. Just over 2,000 people employed in that sector, and it's been established circa 40 years. So rather than trying to be all things to all men on day one with FinTech, we thought, let's concentrate on what we're good at. Can the Isle of Man become a centre of excellence for InsurTech? We have a number of large life and wealth management companies headquartered here. We've got a lot of professionalism and experience in this area. So we decided to go down the InsurTech route first. That's developed over the last 2 years. We put together a working party of insurance specialists that have given of their time and their brain power. We're now reaching a pivotal time in the project where we have partnered with a FinTech incubation company called F10. They're based in Zurich, and they are currently receiving a number of applications. I think the number yesterday was around 60. We're going to evaluate and filter those businesses down to around about 7. Those 7 businesses will then physically come to the Isle of Man at the end of September, and we're going to incubate them, mentor them, have a series of masterclasses, introduce them to our businesses we already have here, and hopefully some business can be done in the InsurTech space there.
And for those who spend their lives in areas other than finance and insurance, what actually would this mean, both in terms of their experience in buying and using insurance firms, but I suppose also on the bigger picture, what potentially could this mean for the Isle of Man and for the Manx economy? So perhaps if we start off with how would it impact on me? I want to buy some new house insurance or something. How would the sort of technology you're talking about assist?
Speed is the main thing for the underlying customer. So travel insurance, for instance, you can very easily get a travel insurance contract on your mobile phone, and it takes minutes. The benefits to the Isle of Man I see as being threefold. Firstly, and it's already happening, and you've picked up on it, is the press releases we've put out recently have given us an international reach. All of a sudden, the likes of FinTech Times and FinExtra and all these very large publications are getting in touch, hearing the noise, wanting to know what's the Isle of Man doing in this space. So very much putting us on the map first and foremost. Secondly, the insurtech businesses that are coming to the Isle of Man next month, we're hopeful will be able to contract in due course with some of our existing insurance companies here to help them drive down costs and speed up efficiencies to give even better sort of customer outcomes. Some of our insurance companies have already invested heavily in technology, but we're aware that there may be some gaps. So the remit we've put out to F10 is to attract the right sort of insurtech business to come here. Third is obviously we would like some of these insurtech companies to enjoy their time here. They're here for a week, and hopefully consider, if there's business to be done, setting up a branch on the Isle of Man, which will then create new jobs and grow the tax take.
And in terms of the whole insurance industry, I mean, you mentioned there earlier in the interview that it is one of the mainstays of the Manx economy now. Why do, I mean, cynics will say it's purely about the tax, but there must be more to it than that people come to the Isle of Man to set up insurance businesses on the Isle of Man. But maybe you could explain what are the benefits?
Yeah, it's quite complicated, but a number of our large internationally focused insurance companies have established here over many years. The areas that they receive their business from are a bit further from home. So one or two do a lot of business in the UK, but a lot of business is derived from the expatriate community in the Middle East, in the Far East, and more so now in Latin America. So a great deal of business flows to the island from customers around the world. So it's not really a domestic market, but we are looking to grow the domestic insurtech market as well on this journey.
I didn't hear a sort of direct answer to the question there. I mean, you mentioned that it was complicated. You mentioned what you hope to achieve, but is it something about the regulation that on the island that attracts people? Is can you expand a little bit on it's complicated?
Yeah, so absolutely, the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority is renowned and has a lot of expertise in international markets. A lot of our financial services companies on this island across all sectors deal internationally. So we do attract business because of the long-standing regulatory processes that we have in place. That's for sure. We're also quite a low-cost area to do business in terms of salaries. Business rental space, business rents. If you compare setting up a business in the Isle of Man compared to London or some of the other jurisdictions that we compete with, we're very cost-effective base.
So then, back to the more general discussion about Isle of Man finance. One of the clever things that a politician will do is Isle of Man government has just done this. They've introduced a 15-year strategy. Of course, they go to the election in 4 years' time, so it's quite difficult. with a 15-year strategy to hold any of the politicians to account, because they can reasonably say, well, we're making some progress, and in another 10 years' time, you'll see the difference. What specifically do you think, what are the objectives for the next 4 years for Finance Isle of Man? What would be a success for the next 4 years for Finance Isle of Man in 4 years' time, if you've managed to achieve? What would be the big thing?
Yes, that's a good question. We need to protect and sustain the financial services economy on the Isle of Man as it stands today. We do not want to see any of our large employers choosing to leave the island. So we need to look after them, protect them, sustain them, and help them with any issues that they have. So that would be partly a success, absolutely. Secondly, we need to come up with new initiatives to stay ahead of the game. So in the last 5 years, four times out of the last 5 years, we have won Best International Finance Centre Award with International Investment Magazine. And when we put in our application for that award each year, we have to put down, what we're planning to do and what we've achieved in the previous 12 months. And that focuses the mind, because we get quite competitive when we're up against Jersey and Guernsey and Gibraltar and Malta, etc., Phil. So, we're always on the lookout for keeping ahead of the game. And that is absolutely where the InsurTech project has come in. Coupled with that, we will be announcing shortly a FinTech Innovation Challenge that is in combination with the Financial Services Authority and the Digital Agency within the department. So we're constantly on the front foot coming up with new ideas. We want to attract new businesses here. We want to develop new ideas. We also are looking to collaborate more and more with our nearshore partners. So FinTech Scotland. We're also in conversation with InsurTech Ireland, FinTech Wales, InsurTech UK. The people on our doorstep we should be collaborating more with. So that would be a success over the next 3 or 4 years to do more of that.
And of course, it is really important that Finance Isle of Man succeeds, because the proportions of the Manx economy which depend on it are really quite significant, aren't they? I mean, if you add up all the areas that Finance Isle of Man is responsible for, what roughly would you say the percentage of economic output would be?
It's around about 42%.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's come down from the heady days of when we had sort of 45, 50 banks here. We're now down to 12 banks, but it's still a massive part of the economy, and I think sometimes people forget that. It's a significant employer, and also it's the ad hoc businesses that benefit from that strong financial sector. It's the shops, the restaurants, the coffee shops. All the suppliers to the big employers that we have on the island. So yeah, it's probably a lot more in real terms than the 42%, but it's still highly significant.
Well, I feel much better informed now than I did, and thank you very much for spending half an hour explaining the mysteries of Finance Isle of Man to the Manx public.
Thank you very much, Phil. It's been a pleasure.
The Manx finance industry has moved on significantly from the 1980s, when it was likened to the Wild West. Despite its good international reputation, though, it remains very much dependent on the vagaries of international politics. How safe is this vital sector on which our economy and government is so reliant? For now, though, I'm Phil Gorn. Goramayu. Thanks for listening.